I would now like to call up the filmmakers of our two films that we just watched, Backlog and I'm sorry, and Electric Sleep. So let's welcome Keena Ferguson. You can have a seat right there. And Ben Taylor. You can have a seat right here. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Yes. So first things first, I really enjoyed both stories, both films. The thing that made me, it like really took me on a roller coaster ride, each film. Like I felt like it took the audience like, okay, different emotions. I really felt a lot of emotions in Backlog because there was no dialogue for a while. Mm-hmm. And it was just like so much that came across on the screen. You're just kind of like, what is happening? What is going on? I felt that so much. And then when words finally were spoken, it was just like, what is happening? And it was so cool to see your son in the film. Yes. That was really awesome. So tell us about like, you know, what was the inspiration behind the film?
Yeah, so I actually wrote that movie about 10 years ago. Wow. And I just felt like I was seeing the writing on the wall. And so I tend to write socially conscious, socially justice things, kind of like what if. And I put it away. I was like, I don't need to do this. And then maybe a year ago, someone was letting them read some scripts. And they were like, why aren't you shooting this? And I was like, I guess I could. So I shot the movie. And then a week after I shot it, Roe v. Wade was overturned. Mm.
Wow.
And then it just kept getting worse and worse. And so I was like, this isn't actually so far off anymore. What I thought was really far off was not. And one of the things, I'm always about less words if I can, like having people just be absorbed into the experience and kind of whatever they feel and whatever they see, allow that to be their story so that when the words do come, you are really listening and those words become super important to what exactly is happening. And so for me, it was we just need to see this family living their life, doing their thing, and then something out of nowhere interrupts your day. And although there's been little things along the way, the radio, her turning, we're so inundated that we're not always paying attention. So my thought was that like, you're hearing it, or she's like, put your phone down at dinner. Yeah. So we're not, and then it affects your family. And then you're like, everything becomes illuminated and you're like, whoa, this is a really big deal. And so I just kind of wanted to set it up that way.
Yes, that came across well. Thank you. You did a really good job. And 10 years ago, that's amazing. Yeah. In my mind, I'm sitting here thinking like, everything that's going on, like maybe it was inspired by that. But just to hear this is like 10 years in the making, that's...
Yeah, I did. I done another film some years ago that dealt with pro-choice in a completely different way. And so then the next one, this just came to me one day as I was thinking about things. And like I said, I was like, it's kind of far off. I'll just toss it. And so I literally didn't look at it again until last year. Wow. You're going through your laptop and you're like, what about this film? And then, as I said, my friend said, let's make it. And so I said, okay.
Wow, that's amazing. And Ben, thank you for being here. You were the producer of An Electric Sleep. So talk to me about what drew you to that film and, the little bit of the inspiration behind it.
Yeah, so I also wrote it. Me and my buddy Theo, the director, when we met in college, I believe I was wearing a Muppets belt buckle and he was wearing a Muppets hat. And so clearly, two corny brothers.
There was a connection.
We were immediately family.
Friends for life.
And then, so obviously we eventually got into filmmaking together, and the foundation is just being nerds. We're nerdy people, and we like Black Mirror and Twilight Zone and sci-fi in general. Yeah. And so we're like, okay, let's try to make a low budget feature film, and we just kind of, there's definitely a lot of scripts and ideas that we went through. And what's weird about this one, although it deals with a virus that's incurable, whatever, I wrote it before the pandemic, so I think I'm a prophet. Sounds like you are too.
So clearly we need to change the world.
Yeah, let's do it.
I was kind of wondering that too, like when did that happen? Because everything that was going on, like it's...
Yeah, we tried another title, Incurable, when we took it to film markets, but I think no one wanted a very bleak title. So we was like, all right, Electric Sleep works. But no, it was kind of weird because we started shooting the movie in 2019, And then 2020 hits.
Wow.
And then we're just like,
Yeah. Okay. You guys are onto something here. Like,
it's a weird feeling, isn't it?
It is very, very
cool.
weird.
So
Yeah.
I want to know about, I'm always interested and intrigued about the title. Like, talk to me about the title and how you landed at the title.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Backlogged, it was like, I just was thinking that what if they went back and saw everyone who had ever had an abortion and decided in this new law that would be criminal. And so for me, it was kind of, and you're kind of like, does Backlogged work? Does that feel right? But I was like, that's just kind of it. And so, just the sense of it being, a box of backlogged files that are disrupting everyone's life.
Literally, yeah.
Literally.
And then
ours is kind of coming from much more of a kind of a business focus. At the time when we were starting the project, we were thinking about, all right, this is going to be on streaming. We need something that starts with an A.
Oh, love it.
And then for the super nerds in the audience, it is a reference to Philip K. Dick's Why Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? So it's kind of a bite off of that a little bit. So for the super nerds, it gives away everything.
Okay.
And then, we thought there's a lot of nice double entendre. But I was thinking about, hey, it'll be in the A.
Yeah.
That's cool. So talk a little bit about any, challenges or difficulties that you overcame through the process of getting this film off the ground.
Yeah.
You're shaking your head, so let's.
Well, yeah.
Like COVID.
COVID, yeah. I mean, short films in general are no joke. And this was our first feature. And we were like, yeah, we can do this. Like, we've done short films. We've done, oh, man. Every issue you can think of, we had it. But I think the beauty of the team that I had, especially working with Theo, we'd have a day, and we might cuss each other out, and then after we're done with that, we'd be like, okay, what have we learned? What should we not do tomorrow? What should we do tomorrow? And then on the next one, like, where are we going to spend money if we have it? I could just go on for all the different, like, it's everything. It's like shooting 5 short films in a row back to back, and it's just like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
You get to day 7, and it's just like, it's not done yet.
Why is this my life? I said this in the last screening. For me, one of the, this film was one of those things that when I did decide I was going to make it, it was my birthday. It was May 13th. And I was kind of like, okay, what am I going to make this for? I'm not even really sure how much. And so I literally got on Instagram. I was in my car and I was like, hey, everybody, it's my birthday. And I know people always want to like buy me a drink, but you could take that $13 for May 13th and donate for me to make this film. And I just kind of did it and was like, oh, that sucks. I can't even believe I just I really like to if I was going to do that, I was like, I'm going to produce a really nice video. And then I'd say in a couple of days, I already had like $3,500, $4,000, right?
Wow.
And I was like, oh. And then it kind of just, people kept donating. And so I was like, oh, okay, so this movie's going to be made. And so I just say that to say, like, we think that there are many challenges, but sometimes it's just the off the cuff, let me just do something that ends up helping to pull it together. But a challenge we did have, and I said this, was that we got to the house that I rented for their home, and I walked in because it was an Airbnb, so I never saw it in person. And I was like, this house is tiny. This is not at all what I envisioned. And I was like almost in tears about it because I knew we couldn't change it. But then we do what filmmakers do, and we're like, we just make it work and make it. And then by like the first day, I was like, oh, this actually does feel right. It's okay,
I love that. And I did donate to that $13.
You did. Yes, you did.
I remember being like, oh, that's a really cool idea. Like, just being fearless to put that out there, because sometimes you feel in your head like, oh, I don't want to ask people. I don't know.
Always. I hate fundraising and asking people for money. So it was. But it was like, well, it's my birthday. Don't offer to buy me a drink. Right. You can just give me $13. And so I think that just allowed people to be like, sure. And so it just racked up so that we ended up having a really nice budget for the film.
That's amazing. What has been the response from the films, from like the different audiences, feedback?
You take that. Really good. I think that I think that people look at it and go, we're not far from that. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's just a lot of realism in that. And what I hope is the response is that our lives can be turned upside down with just a quick vote or a quick overturning, and that you can be living your life. And I think what's most interesting to me is that this is someone who is mothering a child now, and they're willing to pull her from this child, from a child she didn't have. So now that this child would now be motherless. Yeah. And for me, that's how we think of that, you know.
That hit.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun. One of our core things was we definitely wanted entertainment, especially, again, thinking about a feature film and trying to make something that will make money back and will be seen and streamed. And so, yeah, from the foundation of the script, we just knew, like, we need something happening almost every 5 minutes. And in general, I like to try to lie and deceive people. So it's a lot of fun to see. It's a lot of fun to see that people they bite onto the red herring, which is a nice, fun little twist. And then you don't see the bigger twist. For those of you who've seen it, more than once, you might see some of the secret little breadcrumbs that we hid that led up to it. So it's kind of fun to get to that. And then I'd also say just the fan theories, because I have like 5 people that are big fans now, and their theories are kind of fun, and their questions about, well, what's going to happen in the sequel? I'm like, well, write the check and I'll tell you.
Yeah, I wanted to know, like, what was the impact that you wanted to be, shared in the story? Like, what did you want the audience to walk away feeling from each of these stories?
I wanted philosophical debate. It's very fun and silly on the surface, but we were very intentional about having a very religious, devout individual, someone who didn't really care about religion, and someone that's very humanist and fighting for themselves, all kind of dealing with, honestly, technology that's being developed right now. Yeah. Like, I would say ours is a little bit more subversive on, like, but if you do some research, like, there's some crazy stuff being built. And so what I really was hoping as the author of the script, I just wanted people to walk away and ask questions. There really isn't an answer in the movie, because I don't have answers for a lot of the big, crazy, scary things happening. But if people can watch the movie, be entertained, but then also be like, well, shoot, what would I do? Yeah. I think that would be a good thing. I'll tell you in the sequel.
Write the check. Yeah, I'm always, whenever I write about an issue like this, I'm always looking for people to not agree, but just to have understanding or empathy for the other side. So whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, I just want people to walk away and go, I understand how that can be, problematic. And someone can still be pro-life and still understand this person's shoes and go, I don't feel like that should happen though.
Yeah. I want to open it up to the audience. Did anybody have any questions for the filmmakers? I want to give space and time for that as well. Sure, in the back. Yes, you.
I have a question for Electric Sleep. You had a lot of amazing CG, and you had actors interacting with CG, which is someone who I've done this before. It's not as easy and seamless as it looks. And so I was wondering, how much pre-production did you do for this? Did you plan out where he was going to point and all that stuff? It seemed very well thought out. So bravo.
Well, thank you. My lies continue to work. I was actually just telling our host earlier that when we got on set, I didn't expect any of that. So I wrote it and produced it. So once I stopped writing, I turned off the artist brain, and I'm just thinking about how can we do this for a penny, because that's all we had. And so we get to set, and I see this dude waving his hands in the air. I'm like looking at Theo, like, what's he doing, bro? I have the tablets right here. Because when I wrote the thing about, he checks the security camera, I have tablets. Like, we could just green screen the tablet. He's waving his hands all over the place. I'm glad he did that, because it's beautiful. because he had the audacity, or he was brave enough, BraveMaker, to do something that if he had talked to me about it, I would have said, nah, bro, we can't do this. But yeah, we didn't have a lot of money at all. But we had a friend who's in the VFX game, and he had offered to do whatever he could for the movie. So then, of course, once the movie's done, he didn't have time, and he couldn't do whatever he could for the movie. And so, we were fortunate enough, though, to have a recent college grad from our alma mater who had time. It was the pandemic, sitting around at home. And so we had one dude do all that stuff, which is incredible because, it's a lot. And it looks really good. But yeah, that was almost my breaking point where I was like, you know what? I'm done.
This is going to be 5 shorts instead,
right? It's about to be a trailer.
Based on the action?
Yeah, we did a little bit of trying to plan before, like the screen. We had a little bit of a guidance on how to set that up. But yeah, all the stuff in the air, there was no one was guiding us in that madness.
It was very
and he
believable.
He kept typing, and I'm like, come on, bro, just push, just use the one finger. He was like, nah, full on QWERTY. I was like, come on, man, hunt and peck, something. But, yeah.
That's impressive, because that definitely looked like it was very intentional and very, intentional.
So.
Any other questions? Right here in the front.
No, thank you. I just wanted to ask, do you think that because of not just the project you did, but the timing it was, because you said right before Backlogged, will be late, I will turn, right before Electric Secret, right as the pandemic hit. So since we live in a world where literally anything can happen, and your guys' work is just evidence of that, does that give you guys does your creative minds actually explode when that happens? Like, you know what, this can happen at the time and everything. Because you had a great point, you put yours away for 10 years, and you finally decided to do it, you realize that was going on, and then yours. So, when those types of things happen, does that actually give your guys' creative minds even more? Is there stuff that you haven't tapped yet or thought about that you're like, oh no way in the heck this will happen? But now, so does that give your guys' minds does it blow up now?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah. You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think that, again, as we know, there are no new ideas. So I'm always thinking, man, if I'm thinking this, who else is thinking this? Right? And so that's usually what I'm thinking, which sometimes can be scary because something like this, I'm like, I don't want anybody else to be thinking this. Right? So it definitely does do that. But I think what also it does is allows me to know that nothing is off limits to create because there's always an audience for however extreme it is. And so that helps me to always keep pushing through whatever that idea could be.
That's true.
Yeah, one of the, he actually was in the movie, and I'm producing stuff with him now. One of my buddies, he was saying that just recently, last week, he was watching some old Star Trek and the original stuff from the 60s. And there was an episode where they were dealing with a computer that can do everything on the ship and would make the jobs obsolete for the people on the ship. This is, 1960. And it was incredible. He's just watching Star Trek because he's also a nerd. And for that episode to be the one that, during all the stuff with the strikes and stuff. And I think, I think there is something interesting about just the idea of science fiction in general where, science fiction, just by what it is, it's based off of thinking about what could happen, right? It's not, fantasy is a little bit more, oh, this could be cute, That's why usually it's a fairy tale or something, but science fiction is based off of, well, I heard this, and this, and then what if this were happen in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, or whatever. That's why we love Black Mirror, because it's kind of scarily not too distant future. So I think, creatively, it definitely makes me think more and more about, what are the things going on or that I've heard in the past that I can stream together, and then what are the different lessons that can be put together on that. It's definitely sparks a lot.
Yeah, it definitely made me think, even when I think it was Amber was Wally was like, am I a clone? it made me think because, you know, everybody's been talking about Jamie Foxx and where's he's at? Is he a clone? And I'm just like, yeah, you haven't heard that? Yeah.
Where you been, Tony? Oh, at the film festival. At the film festival. I understand.
Okay. Yes, that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that
At
later.
the next workshop, cloning.
Literally, yeah. So it's just like all these different topics like that comes up, and it's just like it's not. It seems far off, but is it? You know, that's the whole thing. Yeah. So we have time for maybe one more question from the audience. I think there was somebody in the front that I heard. Yes.
I was going to ask about the casting process. Like, do you have your people like that you start with, and then you branch out? Like, what each of you, how did you approach it?
You know, this is why film festivals are great, right? Every project I've ever done, almost every project, I pretty much cast from people that I know or that I want to work with. Sometimes what I will do, and usually it's just friends and other people that I, like the guy that played the husband in this film, I met him some years ago doing a play. And I watched him and I was like, this dude's so good. I want to work with this guy. So we met, you know, talked, and then throughout the years we've seen each other at auditions and just a simple like, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. That's it. So when I reached out to him about this, he was like, man, I've been trying to work with you. I've been seeing what you're doing. I'm like, I've been dying to work with you. And he was like, great, let's do it. You know, and he was up for a couple of series at the time. And so we were like working around schedule. And the girl who's the lead, she was writing on a show at the time, and she was shooting a television show and a commercial. And she's a part of a group called #Booked, and they're super popular. And so she's one of, Lanisa Fredrickson. And so she's super busy, and she was like, I'm in the writer's room, I'm gonna read this script, but give me a sec. And 20 minutes after I sent it, she was like, girl, I read it, I'm in, what we gotta do? So usually it's people that I just wanna work with that are either friends or people that I kind of keep a little like, I'd wanna work with this person. Yeah. And that's typically what I will do as opposed to like casting, unless it's something I just don't have.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I was down in LA making this. Didn't have a huge actor network like that, so we actually did proper casting through websites. We didn't have casting directors, but we did the audition process, and you know, we try to find people that can maybe look like they could be a family, and it was a whole thing. A lot of fun, but yeah. So I didn't know those actors prior, but definitely, as I'm moving forward, looking at some projects, I'm doing a lot more writing for actors that I know, actually. For whatever reason, over the last 5 years, I've been meeting more actors and kind of been inspired by their work. And so, yeah, I kind of like that process too, because there's kind of a built-in buy-in kind of, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that is amazing. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you so
much.
Thank
you guys
for
sharing your films. We really appreciate it. Yeah. And thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes. Hey, one more time for Melanie Victor, our facilitator, BraveMaker team member, for Keena Ferguson and Ben Taylor. Thank you so much for supporting BraveMaker. So your tickets, I'd like to be transparent as possible. Your tickets help us do the renting. We didn't get a presenting sponsor here for our film festival this year, but we had a bunch of organizations help us to get things happening, pay our crews and rent things and feed people. We had to pay $8,000 to rent the theater for 4 days. So far, we're at $7,200 in ticket sales. So thank you. And that we still have a couple more screenings left to go, so we might just cover our expenses in the theater. So I just want to say thank you for buying a ticket. It really, really means a lot. And we still have tickets available for our Bay Area Shorts, which is 5 p.m. tonight, as well as our closing night party at 8 p.m. So check it out on the BraveMaker.com website, or you can just scan these pink QR codes on people's badges. Thank you so much. If you want to become a donor, please let us know. Do I see a hand? What's up?
Yeah, can dogs come to the closing night?
Dogs can hang out outside, not inside. We do have like an outdoor patio. Ash is always about the dog. Yes, I love it.
I'm sorry, I'm traveling with my dog.
I love it. That's so great. So yes, dogs, all people are welcome. All animals can hang out outside. Yes, totally. If you have any other questions before we go, why not? Any other questions about BraveMaker in general? Any other comments that someone wants to make about what you've experienced so far? Yes, go ahead.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How can I share Keena's film with my friends and family?
Is it available online, Keena?
It is not available online, but if you give me your email, I can send you a link.
Ooh, okay. That invitation good for everybody? I mean, one person, I don't know. You just... All right, Keena and Ben are going to be on the red carpet. You better go find them and get the answer to that question. And Keena starts to run. All right, any other comments or questions before we go?
I just love the diversity and the female representation. Like, you just did an amazing job of highlighting all the right, like, you know, all the faces.
Love it.
All the people doing good stuff, and the woman in entertainment panel like yesterday was
I heard that was kick butt yesterday.
very inspiring. So good job.
Thank you. If you want to be a volunteer with BraveMaker, we welcome you to join us. We have a team of people who watch all of these films. So maybe you just like, I want to watch films and rate them. All of the films have to be watched by at least 3 people. And we only take films that get a 7 out of 10. And there's 10 different categories. And we really look for diversity in front of the camera and behind the camera. We look for good quality production and sound. We look for brave story, that kind of thing. It's a really fun process. And it takes us about 9 months of the year to do that.
And they can do that from anywhere.
You can do it from anywhere. It could be a remote job. So you can email me, Tony, and it's volunteer. Tony@bravemaker.com. I said job. I was like, ooh.
How much does it pay?
Yeah, that's right. All right, that's it. We do have a screening of our BraveMaker Academy shorts happening here in half an hour. Or is it 3 o'clock? 3 o'clock? 3:15. So that is a half an hour. I know I just said we need to sell tickets, but if you want to stay in it for free and see the acting work of our students, please do. We have an academy where we teach actors by making films. Okay, that starts at 30 minutes. All right, thank you, everybody. Bye. I'll stop talking.